You were running the airline on that horrible day when planes were used as missiles. So much has changed, but give me your reflections 20 years later when you think about both that day and obviously the changes that have taken place so significantly in the industry of which you were an important part.
Well, thanks, David, and it's great to be on the show, and it's good to be part of this remembrance of what was a really somber and difficult time for all of us as Americans. But for those of us at American Airlines, it was really personal. We lost some really wonderful teammates as part of this terrible event, and my day started actually that morning when one of our flight attendants, Betty Ong, who died on Flight 11, called our ops center, and our operations center immediately called me. So this was probably about 8:30 in the morning. The hijacking was already underway, and I was informed that we believed there was a hijacking underway. And of course, we have a protocol for those kind of calls to make sure that they're real. And I asked the team whether they'd followed the protocol, and they said yes, they had, and they were pretty certain it was a hijacking. They went on to describe what Betty had already told them, which was a couple of flight attendants had been stabbed and somebody killed, and that the cockpit had been breached. And so, of course, we were terribly concerned. We still had no idea what the hijackers had intended. But I literally got off the phone quickly, telling the ops center I'd be in the office in 20 minutes. And as I finished my final preparations to leave the house, over my shoulder on the TV, somebody announced that a small plane had flown into the World Trade Center, because you may recall that was the first report. There was a small airplane. And my wife said to me, "Oh my God, is that your airplane?" And I said, I knew in my gut that it was. And I said, no, it couldn't be. And I felt like if I said no, that it wouldn't be true, but of course it was. And then within 20 minutes, I had a call from Jim Godwin, who was running United at the time, and he was missing an airplane. Then I had a call from our ops center that we were missing a second airplane. Another call from Godwin saying he was missing a second airplane, and that his security people had heard rumors that it might be more than 4 airplanes. And then I even got a call from our ops center that said the transponder on a third one of our airplanes had been turned off. So we thought we had a third airplane. Now, fortunately, that was simply an error by a pilot who inadvertently turned off the transponder for a couple of minutes. But, by that time it was, we were all, the adrenaline was pumping. We were all terribly, terribly concerned. I got to the ops center, did a debrief with the senior guys for 2 minutes, and then I told them we were going to ground the American Airlines fleet. And I called the FAA administrator, and I told her we were grounding the American fleet. I thought she should ground the entire U.S. fleet. And she said, well, she hadn't been able to reach the Secretary of Transportation, and I hadn't been able to reach him either. So I said, well, I'm afraid this one's in your hands. And she did. She made the decision almost instantaneously and grounded all the airplanes in the U.S. fleet. So that was the beginning of a crazy day, and followed by an awful lot of craziness around putting the airline back in the air days later. And that was a tough thing. I was listening to the comments about people going back to Wall Street with some fear and trepidation. Well, our employees had that same fear and trepidation. And the thing I remember so clearly was the strength and the resilience of the American Airlines team in their willingness to go back and put the airline in the air in spite of that fear and trepidation.
Wow.
Don, as to the changes that occurred, they've been monumental. I mean, they've been monumental on the security side.
Listening to you tell the story, which I'm sure you've told many times, it's like a punch in the gut, even after all these years. I do wonder, the creation of DHS and specifically TSA, how you would judge them and their ability to bring security back to air travel for the past 20 years. Would you give them a fairly good grade? I mean, just their Twitter feed alone and the number of weapons that they collect on a daily basis it's stunning to this day.
It is stunning, And while we had a lot of fits and starts at the beginning because they weren't equipped or manned to do this initially. In fact, I can remember at 3 o'clock in the morning before we put the airline back in the air, they were still trying to write new rules and procedures. And I kept saying to them, you know, you guys do understand that 100,000 airline employees are coming back to work tomorrow. No matter what you write tonight, they won't know what it is. And and then I can remember a debate again at 3 o'clock in the morning about whether or not the size of a pocket knife that people were permitted to take on airplanes should be reduced from 4 inches to 1 inch, or whether we should just eliminate knives altogether. And I said to them, you people do know that, you know, when we get up in the air and the door is closed and ready to go, the first thing we do is we give everybody a knife. And of course, that was the advent of plastic knives. So I would say this, that there were a lot of fits and starts, a lot of tough decisions, a lot of probably dumb decisions. But over time, I think they have marshaled an incredibly robust security system for the airlines. That doesn't mean it's foolproof. We know that. But, you know, I think there's no question that what happened on 9/11 would be very unlikely to ever occur again, given the security that's there. And by the way, given the security that we've put into the airplanes in terms of the cockpit door, I mean, it can't be breached anymore.